Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, your mind racing with a million thoughts you can't turn off? Maybe you're stuck replaying that awkward conversation, worrying about the future, or drowning in a flood of random memories and what-ifs. It feels like your own brain has become your worst enemy, a noisy, uncontrollable storm that never quits. You're not alone. This relentless mental noise is one of the biggest struggles of our time. But what if I told you that this noise isn't just chaos inside your head? What if it's a battle, a brutal war for control over your mind? And what if mastering this noise is not just about peace of mind, but the most powerful act of rebellion you can make in today's world? It begins before dawn, when the world is still, and silence should cradle your mind. But inside, a storm rages. Thoughts collide like thunder, memories flash like lightning, and fears echo in an endless loop. This relentless noise, the ceaseless chatter inside your head, is not just a passing irritation. For millions, it's a brutal, unyielding battle. Welcome to the eternal battlefield of the mind, a place where silence feels impossible, where the mind is both prison and tormentor. But what exactly is this noise? Is it merely the thoughts we try to push away, or something far deeper, rooted in the very architecture of our being? Throughout history, thinkers and sages have wrestled with the same question. The Stoics, meditating under olive trees in ancient Greece, warned against the tyranny of unruly thoughts. Buddhist monks, cloaked in saffron, sought refuge in silence through meditation, attempting to still the turbulent river of the mind. Centuries later, the dawn of modern psychology began to unravel the complexity of our internal world. Freud spoke of unconscious forces pulling at our consciousness. Jung revealed the shadows lurking beneath awareness. Today, neuroscience maps the very circuits that fuel this inner noise, showing it is no random chaos, but a dynamic symphony of brain activity. This mental noise is both universal and deeply personal. It is the soundtrack to our humanity, our fears, hopes, regrets, and desires, all playing out in an unending performance. And yet, why is this noise so loud? Why does it drown out moments of peace? Because this noise isn't random. It is shaped by forces older than civilization itself. Evolutionary instincts forged in the crucible of survival, the invisible hands of culture and society, and the relentless influence of modern media, constantly vying for our attention. Understanding this brutal reality is the first step. To silence the noise inside, we must first see it for what it truly is, a complex battlefield influenced by biology, history, and power. Prepare yourself. The noise you hear inside is only the beginning. The battle with mental noise is not a modern affliction. It is as old as human consciousness itself. To understand how we might silence the chaos within, we must first journey through history, tracing the minds who sought to master the storm. Long before the rise of modern science, ancient Stoics taught that the mind was a fortress to be guarded. They believed our suffering came not from external events, but from the turmoil inside our heads. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, urged himself to distinguish between what he could control, his own thoughts and reactions, and what he could not. His meditations reveal a relentless effort to calm the mind's noise through reason and discipline, to achieve a kind of inner stillness amid life's inevitable chaos. Far across Asia, Buddhist monks sought silence in meditation. They described the mind as a restless monkey, endlessly jumping from one thought to the next. Their practice was a direct confrontation with this inner chatter, a deliberate effort to observe thoughts without attachment, to cultivate awareness and peace. The concept of mindfulness was born here, centuries before it entered Western psychology. These early practices recognized that silence was not simply the absence of sound, but the presence of a focused, quiet mind. With the dawn of the Enlightenment came a shift. The mind became an object of scientific inquiry. Philosophers and early psychologists sought to dissect the nature of thought and consciousness itself. William James, often called the father of American psychology, described consciousness as a stream, fluid, continuous, yet difficult to grasp. He understood that mental noise was woven into this stream, an unavoidable part of our experience. The 20th century ushered in Freud's revolutionary ideas about the unconscious. He revealed that beneath our conscious thoughts lurked deeper desires, fears, and conflicts, shaping the noise we experience. Carl Jung expanded on this, introducing the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared symbols and archetypes influencing the mind's chatter. Both men showed us that much of what disturbs our mental peace is hidden beneath the surface, beyond easy awareness. Then neuroscience began to illuminate the brain's architecture. Modern imaging techniques revealed the default mode network, a complex web of brain regions that activate when we are not focused on the outside world. This network fuels self-referential thinking, daydreams, and the incessant mental loops many know as rumination. In other words, our brains are wired to create noise. This is not a flaw but an evolutionary feature, once critical for survival, as it helped humans anticipate danger and plan for the future. Yet this biological wiring also traps us. The very networks that kept our ancestors alive now flood modern minds with relentless internal dialogue, often disconnected from reality or helpful action. Our ancient brains struggle to cope with the demands of a hyper-connected, overstimulating world. This tension between ancient biology and modern life defines our psychological landscape. While mental noise is deeply embedded in our history and physiology, it is not immutable. The same ancient disciplines that sought silence centuries ago, the Stoics' rational control and the Buddhists' mindful awareness, are finding new life in today's psychological therapies and mindfulness practices. Understanding this layered history reminds us that the noise inside the mind is both a natural human experience and a challenge that can be met. It is shaped by forces stretching back millennia, but it is also subject to change through discipline, insight, and practice. To silence the mind's noise is to engage in a timeless struggle, one that bridges philosophy, psychology, and neuroscience. It is a fight to reclaim our inner sanctuary, to find calm amid the storm, and to live with clarity in a world that constantly threatens to overwhelm us. Our minds are not just noisy by nature, they are under siege. Every thought, every worry, every echo of doubt is shaped and amplified by powerful forces that hijack our mental space, turning internal whispers into deafening roars. At the heart of this chaos lies a series of brutal psychological mechanisms, cognitive biases, those hidden shortcuts our brains use to process the world, distort reality in ways that fuel the noise inside. The negativity bias, for example, ensures that bad news, fears, and threats linger longer in our minds than joys or calm moments. This bias was once essential for survival, alerting our ancestors to danger, but today, it traps us in cycles of anxiety and rumination, where imagined threats grow out of proportion. Emotional triggers further stoke the fire. A single unsettling memory, a harsh word, or an image can ignite torrents of internal dialogue, flooding the mind with regret, guilt, or anger. Our survival instincts, honed over millennia, push us to fixate on threats, real or perceived, because the cost of ignoring danger was once death. But in the modern world, these instincts turn inward, fueling fears about social rejection, failure, or loss that may never come. Yet the internal noise is not solely our creation. It is hijacked, exploited, and amplified by external forces. Media outlets thrive on fear, sensationalism, and outrage because these emotions capture attention. The 24-hour news cycle bombards us with images of catastrophe, scandal, and division, feeding the mind's survival instincts and keeping anxiety levels high. Headlines scream warnings, pushing the brain into a constant state of alert. Social media deepens this assault. Algorithms craft echo chambers that trap us within our own beliefs, flooding our feeds with confirmation and outrage. Every like, share, and comment triggers dopamine hits, reinforcing attention to conflict and controversy. This endless feedback loop turns private mental noise into a collective roar, fracturing communities and overwhelming individuals. Advertising exploits the same vulnerabilities. By tapping into insecurities and desires, marketers implant mental hooks that distract and manipulate. The relentless barrage of targeted ads promises happiness through consumption, only to leave the mind craving more, never satisfied. Consider the impact. A mind already wired to fear and anticipate is assaulted daily by curated stimuli designed to grab attention, provoke emotional reactions, and fragment focus. The result is an internal battlefield littered with amplified fears, false narratives, and compulsive worries, hardly fertile ground for silence or peace. This hijacking is not accidental, it is a system engineered for control. By monopolizing our attention and stirring internal chaos, media and cultural powers shape perceptions, beliefs, and behaviors on a massive scale. The struggle for mental peace becomes a resistance against invisible forces that profit from our distraction and division. Understanding this reveals the brutal truth. The noise inside your mind is not just a personal battle, it is a war waged by external powers, exploiting the mind's ancient wiring. The psychological mechanisms evolved to protect us now serve as conduits for manipulation, trapping us in a cycle of mental noise that seems impossible to break. Recognizing these forces is the first step to reclaiming control. It calls for awareness, not just of our thoughts, but of the environments that feed them. To silence the noise, we must not only calm our internal storms, but also disrupt the external systems that hijack our minds. In this context, mental silence is not just a personal victory, it is an act of rebellion. It challenges the very architecture of distraction and control that defines our age. The journey ahead demands courage, insight, and vigilance, because the mind's noise is never just noise. It is a battlefield shaped by biology, emotion, and power. And only by seeing this clearly can we hope to find silence. Every second, our minds are bombarded by a relentless storm of information. Notifications ping, messages flood in, opinions clash on every screen, demanding attention, pulling focus, fragmenting thought. This isn't just noise, it's a modern crisis, a tsunami of digital chaos, crashing against the fragile shores of our mental peace. Imagine a mind forced to juggle 100 conversations, dozens of apps, constant alerts, and endless scrolling. The human brain was never designed for this. It craves coherence, quiet, and deep focus. Instead, it is trapped in a whirlwind of distraction, struggling to catch a breath. Digital technology, once heralded as a tool for connection and knowledge, now acts as a powerful amplifier of mental noise. Multitasking, often glorified as productivity, shreds our attention spans into fragments. Studies reveal that switching between tasks can reduce efficiency by up to 40%, yet we willingly surrender to this fragmented reality. The addictive design of digital platforms hijacks our reward systems. Every like, every new notification triggers dopamine surges, our brain's pleasure chemical, hooking us into cycles of compulsive checking and scrolling. Social media becomes less about meaningful connection and more about dopamine hits, creating a dependency that feeds on our vulnerabilities. This constant connectivity breeds decision fatigue. With thousands of choices presented daily, what to watch, read, respond to, the brain exhausts itself. The overload impairs judgment, leaving us prone to impulsive decisions or paralysis by analysis. Our emotional well-being frays as stress hormones rise in response to perpetual stimulation. Beyond individual impact, this digital noise reshapes society. Filter bubbles isolate us within ideological echo chambers, amplifying division and mistrust. Algorithms prioritize content that incites outrage and fear, fueling cycles of misinformation and polarization. The noise is not neutral, it is engineered to provoke, to keep us engaged and divided. The fight to silence the noise inside our minds has never been more urgent. The battlefield extends beyond internal struggles to a digital landscape designed to fragment, distract, and dominate. True silence requires resisting this engineered chaos, reclaiming focus, and cultivating mindful presence amidst a world gone noisy. To survive this age of information overload, we must recognize that the noise is both external and internal, a feedback loop amplified by technology and human psychology. The quest for mental silence demands a new kind of discipline, one that balances connectivity with boundaries, information with discernment, and presence with reflection. In this modern chaos, silence is an act of defiance, a rebellion against the forces that seek to control our attention and fragment our minds. The challenge is daunting, but the reward is profound, reclaiming clarity, freedom, and peace in an era ruled by noise. Amid the storm of relentless thoughts, the ceaseless chatter, and the noise that consumes your mind, a quiet revolution begins. Breaking the chains of mental chaos is not a myth, it is a battle fought daily, with tools both ancient and modern, accessible to anyone willing to reclaim their inner peace. The first weapon in this fight is mindfulness meditation, a practice rooted in thousands of years of Eastern philosophy. It begins with simple awareness, observing the breath, noticing the sensations in the body, watching thoughts rise and fall without judgment. This disciplined attention trains the mind to step back from the noise, to witness it without becoming entangled. People across the globe have found in mindfulness a sanctuary, a momentary silence that grows stronger with practice. Scientific studies reveal that meditation reshapes the brain, strengthening areas linked to attention and emotional regulation while weakening those that fuel rumination. But mindfulness is only one piece of the puzzle. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, offers a structured approach to confronting and reshaping the negative thought patterns that amplify mental noise. By identifying distorted beliefs and challenging their validity, CBT empowers individuals to dismantle the false narratives that trap them in cycles of anxiety and regret. This therapy transforms the mind from a passive victim into an active architect of its own peace. Look back to the Stoics, ancient warriors of the mind, who taught that we cannot control external events but can master our responses. Their philosophy is a timeless manual for mental resilience. Through practices like negative visualization, they prepared themselves to face hardship without being overwhelmed. Embracing the Stoic principle of focusing only on what lies within our power dissolves much of the noise generated by worries over the uncontrollable. Modern neuroscience offers cutting-edge techniques like neurofeedback and brainwave entrainment. These technologies allow the mind to literally retrain itself, tuning brain activity toward calmer, more focused states. For those overwhelmed by incessant chatter, such methods can be transformative, accelerating the journey to silence where traditional techniques may take years. Consider the story of Sarah, a young professional drowning in anxiety and distraction. Through a combination of mindfulness, CBT, and neurofeedback, she found a way out of the storm. Slowly, the intrusive thoughts lost their grip. The cacophony faded into a gentle hum. Her world did not change overnight, but her relationship with her mind did. She learned that silence is not the absence of thought, but the presence of control. Discipline and self-awareness are the pillars supporting this transformation. Cultivating silence demands consistent effort, setting boundaries with technology, choosing solitude over noise, and nurturing habits that prioritize mental clarity. Environmental control is vital. A cluttered, chaotic space invites mental clutter, while simplicity and order invite calm. This journey from turmoil to calm is cinematic in its own right, a profound metamorphosis of the human spirit. It challenges the narrative that we are helpless against our inner noise. Instead, it reveals the power within each of us to reclaim the sanctuary of our minds. Breaking the chains is not a single act but a continuous process. It invites you to become both the warrior and the healer of your mind. To listen deeply, choose wisely, and hold fast to the silence that lies beyond the noise. The battle is brutal, but the victory, mental silence, is worth every struggle. To truly silence the noise inside your mind is to take a stand, a radical act of defiance in a world that thrives on distraction and manipulation. This silence is not mere tranquility, it is reclaiming the autonomy that systems of power seek to erode every day. For centuries, rulers, media empires, and cultural institutions have waged war for your attention, your opinions, your very behavior. The more noise they generate, the easier it is to control the narrative, to divide and conquer, to keep minds fragmented and compliant. Mental noise is their ally, a tool to disorient and pacify. But mastering your mind, achieving inner silence, disrupts this architecture of control. It breaks the spell of constant distraction and refuses to feed the cycle of manipulation. This inner freedom becomes the foundation for outer resistance, a quiet revolution that starts within and radiates outward. History is full of voices urging this truth. From ancient philosophers who prized wisdom over noise, to modern social critics who expose how propaganda poisons public discourse, the call remains the same. Freedom begins in the mind. When you silence the noise, you reclaim your power, not by escaping reality, but by confronting it with clarity, strength, and unwavering focus. You see through the lies and distractions, making choices grounded in truth, rather than fear. This is not an easy path. It demands courage to face the chaos without flinching. But it is a journey worth every struggle, because in that silence lies the seed of transformation for yourself and for the world. So rise above the cacophony, claim your mind as your own. Be the quiet force that resists manipulation, that creates clarity amid confusion, that inspires others to do the same. The silent revolution has begun. Will you join it?